Everyone said she had the perfect life. The big house, the handsome husband, the best friend who never left her side. They laughed together that night, the wife and her friend, glasses clinking like nothing could touch them. But he watched them from across the room and smiled at the wrong one. No one noticed the glances, the timing, the shared secrets behind their eyes. The friend leaned in a little too close. His hand lingered a little too long. The wife didn't see it. She saw love, loyalty, safety. But the truth was already in the room with them, and it was about to light a fire no one could put out. Because betrayal doesn't knock, it dances in while you're smiling. It didn't happen just once. Affairs like this never do. It started with a joke, then a drink, then a lie that felt too easy. She said, "We're hurting her." He said, "She'll never know." They met in rooms that didn't belong to either of them. He said things in that bed he hadn't said to his wife in years. And every time he left, he swore it was the last time. But lust is louder than guilt when the door clicks shut behind you. He convinced himself it didn't mean anything. She convinced herself it did. And neither of them realized who was watching. She found it by accident. That's how these things always start. A crumpled hotel receipt, a time and place she didn't recognize. At first, she gave him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it was work. Maybe I forgot. nMain. But the gut doesn't lie. And hers twisted with every passing second. She checked the date. Her birthday weekend. The one he said he spent with his brother. She stood in the laundry room, holding the evidence like it was soaked in gasoline. And something inside her changed. She didn't cry. Not yet. She just folded the jacket, put it back on the hanger, and started planning. Because if they were going to burn her life down, she'd make sure everyone saw the flames. She told him she had errands. He told her he had meetings. But the cafe wasn't near his office. And the friend wasn't supposed to be there. She sat in the car, gripping the steering wheel so tight her knuckles turned white. Through the glass, they laughed, touched hands, whispered like teenagers. Her best friend, her husband, sharing secrets at 10 a.m. She didn't move, didn't cry, just watched, like she was watching a stranger's life fall apart. He wiped something from the friend's cheek, the kind of gesture that used to belong to her. She finally exhaled, and the sound felt like a warning. She didn't storm in. Not yet. Because revenge, when planned right, doesn't interrupt. It waits. She started collecting everything, every breadcrumb they dropped. Screenshots, credit card charges, calendar overlaps, late-night texts that didn't belong to her. It was all there, hidden in plain sight. She wasn't tech-savvy, but betrayal makes you learn fast. The hardest part wasn't seeing the messages. It was how familiar they were, how easily he gave her friend the intimacy he'd taken from their marriage. She read them in silence, lips trembling but dry. Then she saved everything in a folder named Truth. Not for the lawyers, not for herself, but for everyone who ever said he would never do that to you. nMain. The annual charity gala, the one she planned every year. Everyone would be there. Friends, colleagues, her parents, his boss. She chose the red dress. Not because it was flattering, because it was bold. Her heart pounded, but her face was calm. Tonight, she wasn't just a wife. She was a witness with evidence. Downstairs, the music played and laughter swelled. They were already there. The friend in silver, her husband in black. She gave them time, let them settle in, let them feel safe. Then she picked up her phone, opened the folder labeled Truth, and hit send to every guest on the mailing list. It started with a buzz, then Another. Then a wave. Phones lit up across the ballroom like sparks before a wildfire. Conversations stopped mid-laugh. Glasses paused mid-air. Screens filled with screenshots, messages, hotel bookings, stolen kisses in timestamps. Her name, his name, her friend's name, all on display. The whispers started first, then the stares. Her husband looked down at his phone and froze. The friend gasped, grabbing his arm. He pulled away. And in the middle of it all, she walked in, red dress, chin high, untouched by the chaos. She didn't have to say a word. The truth was loud enough. He chased her into the hallway, panic all over his face. Please wait. Let me explain. She didn't stop walking. You cheated on me with someone who stood next to me at my wedding. Notoha. He reached for her arm. She stepped back. People were watching now. The bartender, the event coordinator, a photographer still holding his camera. You humiliated me. In our home. In our bed. With her. Oh. It wasn't supposed to happen, he whispered. But it did. Over and over. Young nine. She didn't slap him. She didn't scream. She just looked him dead in the eyes and said, "Now the world knows who you really are." Nearly. Back inside, the night continued. Kind of. Guests whispered behind champagne glasses. The friend disappeared out the back. He stood alone by the bar, eyes sunken, mask shattered. Fireworks lit the sky beyond the ballroom windows. She watched them reflect in the glass. A show she didn't plan, but welcomed. No one approached her. No one dared. Her silence had become legend in the span of 10 minutes. Some called it brutal. Others called it brave. She didn't care what they called it. She called it freedom, and she earned every flicker of it. He lost his job first. Pure nightmare, they called it. The company couldn't afford the scandal, not with the screenshots making headlines. Clients pulled out. Partners stopped returning calls. He sat in his office with the lights off, reading every word he wrote to her friend. Each message felt like a nail in the coffin of the life he used to have. He tried to delete them, but the internet forgets nothing. He had betrayed his wife, but now the world was punishing him for it. He wasn't a man anymore. He was a cautionary tale, and no apology would fix what had been burned into memory, especially not hers. She didn't lose just a husband. She lost a friend, a circle, a world. People chose sides. Some stayed silent. Some backed away quietly. The woman who used to host Sunday brunches now sat alone at the cafe they once crowded. She wasn't pitied. She was avoided. Not because she was wrong. Because she made the truth too loud. Everyone loves a scandal until they're expected to do something about it. But she didn't regret what she did. Not for a second. She didn't blow up her life. She uncovered the rot inside it. And if that made people uncomfortable, good. Let them squirm. She had nothing left to hide. The final cut came quietly, a pen stroke across thick paper. No tears, no shouting, just signatures and silence. He tried to speak once. She didn't let him. This wasn't about closure. This was about conclusion. She slid the ring across the table like it meant nothing, because now it didn't. It was just a circle, a symbol that failed to hold anything inside it. The lawyer offered her a tired smile. She didn't return it. She stood, fixed her blazer, and walked out like it was just another appointment. Behind her, the man she once loved looked smaller than ever, and she never looked back. She used to be invisible in places like this. Just another wife with a cart. Now they whispered when she passed. Some looked curious. Some looked guilty. She felt their glances like cold rain down her spine. But she didn't flinch, didn't rush. This was the cost of truth, being seen for everything, even the scars. A woman behind her said, "That's her." Not with cruelty, with awe. The woman who exposed the lie, who didn't stay quiet, who didn't play nice. She smiled to herself, not because it felt good, but because it felt finished. Her shame had become their spectacle, but her silence, that belonged to no one now. He still had the album, the one she made for their 5th anniversary. Every photo was a lie now. Or maybe they were just memories with expiration dates. He flipped through them like pages in a book he'd ruined with the ending. She smiled in every picture. So did her friend. And he looked like a man who never thought he'd be caught. He whispered her name. Once. Just to hear it again. But the walls didn't answer. The ring on his finger felt heavier by the second. He had built a life with a woman who loved him without question, and destroyed it for one who disappeared the moment it burned. That was his legacy now, the man who ruined himself for nothing. It had been 2 months since the divorce was final. She hadn't seen him, hadn't spoken to her former friend. The silence wasn't empty. It was sacred. She started walking again. Long walks, nowhere to be. No one to impress. Out in the open, she felt her lungs working again. There was grief, yes, but also clarity. She wasn't defined by what he did, or what they did. She was the woman who faced it, named it, and walked through the fire anyway. They expected her to shatter, but she didn't. She survived. Loudly. She was leaving the house, not because she had to, but because she chose to. It wasn't a home anymore, just a shell filled with echoes. She wrapped the photo frame, gently, even though she wouldn't hang it again. Not out of bitterness, out of respect for who she used to be. She'd built this life, and she'd watched it fall apart, but she didn't want to live in the ruins anymore. She taped the last box shut and took one last look at the space that knew all her secrets. The love, the lies, the silence, the screams, all trapped in the walls. Then she whispered goodbye, not to him, to the woman who stayed too long, and walked out without locking the door behind her. Her new apartment was small, but it was hers. No shared memories, no scent of betrayal soaked into the floorboards. She spent evenings under the stars, not asking why, just breathing. The city felt louder, but her mind felt quiet. People reached out. Strangers, survivors, women who said thank you without saying why. She didn't respond to all of them, but she read every word. Her pain had gone public, yes, but so had her strength. Not everyone gets to control the narrative, but she had rewritten hers from the ashes, and every sentence screamed freedom. She finished writing it all down. The betrayal, the fallout, the fire she didn't start but didn't run from. The journal sat open by the window, ink still drying. No publisher, no plan, just the truth, finally told all the way through. She didn't write it for revenge. She wrote it so her silence would never be mistaken for weakness again. Outside, the rain began to fall. Soft, steady, cleansing. She looked out at the storm, calm for the first time in months. This wasn't a happy ending. It wasn't a tragedy either. It was something more powerful. The end of pretending, and the beginning of everything real.